Members, order members. Item 7 on the order paper, the adjournment. The question is that the Assembly do now adjourn, and in conjunction with the Business Committee, the Speaker has given leave to Saoirse Eastwood to raise the matter of the Maze Long Kesh Redevelopment and Investment. I call Saoirse Eastwood, who is up to 15 minutes.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'd also like to declare an interest at the start of this debate, given that I was a former councillor in Lisburn-Castlereagh Council area. I really welcome the opportunity to have this debate today. I want the debate to be solution-focused and forward-looking. However, we need to acknowledge where we are and how we have got here with the Maze Long Kesh site. To me, the Maze Long Kesh site perfectly encapsulates a level of political failure, something full of such promise, yet stalled and stalling. This is a site of huge economic and social value, not just to Lagan Valley, but indeed right across Northern Ireland. It sits on the Belfast to Dublin corridor, one of only, I think actually one, European transport corridor on the whole of the island, a close distance to major airports and ports. The Maze Long Kesh Corporation noted that it has the potential to deliver around 800 million of investment and up to 14,000 jobs. And yet, ministers refuse time and time again to be decisive and to choose a positive way forward. Ahead of this debate today, I was looking at previous plans for the site. Of course, we know about the potential for a multi-sport stadium that could have seen us hosting multiple international events. But the previous master plan also had provision for housing, leisure facilities, innovation zones, parks and community areas. So while the headlines always talk about the lost opportunity with the sports stadium, I talk about the loss for our constituents in Lagan Valley of all the things that could have been, that could have made our area so much better: housing, jobs and green space. This is also deeply personal to me, as I grew up just a short distance from the Maze Long Kesh site, and I know what it could be for the people of the area and beyond. And indeed, we know that there is absolutely brilliant work being done with the Ulster Aviation Society, the Air Ambulance Northern Ireland, and now housing the Balmoral Show. But we are where we are, and where we are today with Maze Long Kesh is nothing short of a scandal. The Maze Long Kesh Development Corporation became operational in 2012. They had a remit to secure the regeneration of Maze Long Kesh through the following means: bringing land and buildings into effective use, encouraging public and private investment and the development of industry and commerce, creating an attractive environment and ensuring that social, recreational, cultural and community facilities are available. However, the current position, due to no ministerial agreement on a way forward, is that the corporation is constrained in what it can do. In an answer to my written question, the First Minister and Deputy First Minister said, "The Development Corporation is currently charged with maintaining and managing the site, carrying out essential health and safety works and supporting the existing tenants, so they have effectively been reduced to caretakers. And yet we have appointed a new board and a chairman at significant expense. We need to do much better." In their annual report of 2022-23, the MLK Corporation noted the potential to create 6 hubs on the site, including for health and life science, agri-foods and community living, health and well-being. Indeed, I'm sure Invest NI and Enterprise NI would be willing to lend their expertise as well in bringing this site to life. There is also the talk of Northern Ireland becoming a green investment zone, and I would welcome that and argue that this site could play a major role in that. And so there actually is a clear vision. There are ideas, but what is missing is political leadership to help bring this forward. I am really looking forward to the response today from the First Minister and Deputy First Minister to this debate. But what I really don't want to hear is the obvious. Indeed, I've looked back over the years of written questions and answers about plans for the site, and the response from the First Minister and Deputy First Minister is always roughly the same. We recognise the great value and potential in the site and look forward to working to its regeneration. I truly hope that there is more to say today in this debate, because everyone knows the value and the potential of the site already. That isn't what we are missing right now. The people of Lagan Valley, and indeed right across Northern Ireland, deserve better than drift year after year. What I want to hear today is clear ambition and detail, because I have that ambition for us all. I want plans, I want timelines, I want our First and Deputy First Minister to deliver on the potential of the site, so that we can actually start to realise its full potential and move forward to a better future that we all deserve. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. Before we proceed, can I notify members that members for the Lagan Valley constituency will have 6 minutes to speak. All other members will have 4 minutes. And I call Emma Little-Pengelly.
Thank you. It's great to have the opportunity to stand and to speak on this important issue for Lagan Valley. To clarify, I'm speaking from the backbenches, not a ministerial capacity as Deputy First Minister. The response will be from the First Minister officially. But I did want to contribute to this debate because of the importance, in particular, to Lagan Valley, but in my view, actually to the importance of Northern Ireland, because I do think this is a site of regional importance, not just Lagan Valley importance. But I also speak as somebody who is in another role, in a capacity, and in a position to hopefully seek to move this project forward. I have worked very closely with the site even long before I came into the Lagan Valley constituency, and I worked with colleagues around, and some still around this assembly, for many, many years. And I can honestly say I think I've spent many hundreds of hours of my life working on the Maze Long Kesh proposals. And of course it is a source of deep frustration that the overall site has not been developed, and there are a number of reasons for that. I think sometimes it is incredibly simple to put this down to a political disagreement, but the reality is that politics and decisions in terms of a site like this is not about what we do to people, what politics decides and imposes through leadership or whatever that may be. The development of this site had to happen with those who were involved in, who had a link to, who had the understandable issues and concerns and genuine fears and apprehensions about some aspects of this site. Because there are historical aspects of this site which touch on all of that. And I see my Assembly colleague from Strangford is here, and he, of course, was actively involved as well with many of the organisations at the time of the initial proposals. Some of those proposals were very ambitious, and we worked very hard on those proposals. Yes, this site cannot just be a driver for Lagan Valley, but an economic driver for Northern Ireland. There is space on the site, on that key geographical location, that Belfast to Dublin corridor, with those links in terms of airports and ports. The site is ideal in terms of economic hub, particularly in some of those new areas that we talk about all of the time: reg tech, clean tech, green tech, in AI, in terms of pharma, in terms of so much potential that we can have here. But it also must be a site for the community, and I'm glad that I've been working with many within the community, including local sports organisations, about the potential of using the community and sports dedicated aspects of this site moving forward. But the reality is that we also need to listen to those that did have concerns about the initial proposals. The prison site is an example of the challenging and difficult legacy issues that we often have to deal with here in Northern Ireland. The original proposal, as it was, of course we went out and we spoke to people, we listened to groups, we listened to those that would be most impacted from that. And we understood, like, the reality is we had to listen to the concerns, the genuine concerns and issues of victims and survivors, of the prison officers who worked on that site, the prison officers who were injured, some of whom we listened to the families of those killed on that site and in and around the prison, and of course those who were connected to the prison, who perhaps served time in that prison. There's a lot of history with that site, and that will require moving forward with consensus. It will require moving forward with sensitivity, and of course we need to move forward with that consensus, with people with us, because the most important thing for us to do in politics is not to step forward and do something that is going to create further division, hurt and harm. And it is the reality that the previous proposals couldn't go ahead, not because of a lack of political agreement at that time, but because there was not a consensus with those key stakeholders, those that were most invested in that site in terms of the way forward. But that does not mean that we shouldn't take on the challenge of trying to navigate and find our way through that. Any way forward with this must be done with victims at the heart of it. It must be done in a way which is entirely sensitive to the needs of victims, to the history and to the heritage and to the legacy of this place as well. And that, of course, is absolutely my pledge today. But of course, there have been huge success stories on this site, and I want to make some reference to those. The Balmoral Show attracting 1 million visitors a year, huge success. Many of the buildings there, the progress that it has made, really something that has become a source of celebration, I know, for all of Northern Ireland, but particularly proud to have that right in the heart of Lagan Valley as well. It attracts visitors from right across Northern Ireland. I always encourage city folks and town folks to get there and come and see some of the wonderful agriculture and rural aspects on display. And that's been really, really positive, and we look forward to working very closely with the RUAS moving forward. I also want to make reference to the fantastic Ulster Aviation Society. And if anybody listening to this, if you haven't been down to see the hangars and the incredible things that they have down there, please do get down to see it. In European Heritage Day, 3,000 visitors attending, so some really good examples. But the challenge for us is to move forward positively, ensure that we maximise it, but to do so working with people, not imposing something on people. Thank you.
Thank you. I call David Honeyford.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Maze Long Kesh, has been said, and I've said it before as well, it's literally the symbolic microcosm of Northern Ireland. It's all the potential, it's the resource, it's the location, it's the opportunity, and it lies underutilised and in the most dormant. The Maze Long Kesh symbolises our past, but it also symbolises Northern Ireland of today and the potential for the future. It's the example of where our ambition for growth unfortunately meets the divisive nature of Northern Ireland politics, where we won't make a decision. Unrealised potential, and everybody misses out and everybody loses. But I remain really hopeful that the potential can finally actually be realised and be seen, and the community around can play a part in that. And I do also feel really hopeful that this region can also be confident and have a prosperous future to live. If this Assembly is to fully function and deliver for everyone here in the North, then the Assembly and the First and Deputy First Ministers must start to make decisions, hard decisions, long-term investments that future generations will feel the benefits of. Making the decisions that is a vital component to grow our economy, to give our local companies and the platform to thrive, to attract inward investment. And if our economy grows, it gives us the advantage of raising the living standards of every one of our constituents. It's been said by my colleague Saoirse Eastwood beside me that there are opportunities at Maze Long Kesh for developing for new green business technology zone, for green energy, for agri-food, linking with our colleges, growing our entrepreneurial base and intellectual property that's owned and lives here, generating wealth locally. Our design manufacturing industry for greater foreign direct investment, creating jobs, apprenticeships, opportunities. The Maze Long Kesh site, as has been said, is located on the island, centrally located on the M1 economic corridor, and the new Knockmore Link Road will provide easy access, linking the potential of the central industrial hub of the Belfast-Dublin economic corridor to the site. There are opportunities to provide land for leisure facilities, for sports pitches, for the community that are in huge demand in the area. But much like Northern Ireland, the Maze Long Kesh site was once associated with conflict and hasn't seen its full potential. There has been substantial tourism investment into Hillsborough, and the investment into Hillsborough Village by Lisburn Castlereagh City Council, and they're being absolutely commended for the work they have done there. And it's been funded as part of the city deal. And that city deal is to market and create a tourism opportunity, an offering for the stunning Georgian Hillsborough Village with its bars, its restaurants, its cafes, its boutique shop and hotels. Alongside the royal residence in Hillsborough Castle and its gardens. And then across the road we have the Dark Walk and the fort to the neighbouring Forest Park. And given the MLK site is practically next door, it also hosts the Ulster Aviation Society, as been mentioned, and the Econ Exhibition Centre. But importantly, it still contains one of the remaining H blocks. And so finally building a peace and reconciliation centre that could massively enhance and add to the offering and bring our community together, that helps deal with our past, that helps deal with our history, and physically demonstrates the progress that we have made as a society as we move towards peace and where others can learn from us. It would be one of the biggest development opportunities anywhere in Northern Ireland. That's what Peter Robinson said about that site in 2012. The economic driver for tourism for the wider area, approximately 70% of tourists enter this island in the south. And we've got to attract that north. And developing this site, it would market and help us market that and benefit everybody. This is the future we could have. This is the future ahead of us. But we need political leadership to bring and to deliver results that bring the community along. And if we choose to walk into it, we need those decisions. We don't need nice words. We've had a peace process for the entire adult lifetime of practically everybody under the age of almost 50. And while it's important to continue the work towards a truly peaceful society, it's got to be, and this has got to be the time when we finally start to look forwards, where we finally start to look for and build prosperity for the wider region in the north. The development of the MLK site is currently subject to ministerial agreement on that way forward. Decisions finally need to be made, setting political baggage and aspirations to the side and actually making decisions that move this forward. But I do look forward and hope that decisions coming forward will come and can provide the opportunities that this generation and the next generation deserve. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
And thank you. I call Paul Gibbon.
Deputy Speaker, and I'm here in the back benches, which are much more comfortable than the front benches, I have to say. Oh, Mr. Nesbitt's keen to get to the front bench. It's more comfortable here, Mike, trust me. But the challenge is always better on the front benches. Can I thank Saoirse Eastwood for bringing forward the adjournment debate. Tricky for Emma and I to do that in our ministerial capacity, so this at least gives us a chance to speak as MLAs for Lagan Valley, so thank you for that. It's an opportune time to talk about the maze or Long Kesh, and I'm comfortable with either, and I'll outline why in due course. But it is important that we seek to unlock the potential that we have here in the Lagan Valley constituency. Colleagues have touched upon the strategic importance of the location, 350 acres, sitting beside the Blair site, which is 400 acres. And if you look at that in that totality, in terms of the amount of ground that could be unlocked as a part of the opportunity, this would have huge economic benefits, not just to Lisburn, but to Northern Ireland. Its accessibility, east-west and north-south, is critically important. You know, within 30 minutes of the maze site, 60% of our population can get to it. Within 1 hour, 80% of our population can get to the maze site. So it's accessible to so many people that we need to find ways to create opportunities for it. Long before it was known as the HMP maze, locals regarded it and called it the Long Kesh. We have the Kesh Road that sits right beside this site. It was the home and a base for the Royal Air Force. It was known as RAF Long Kesh. Now, I appreciate that in more recent times it's been associated with when prisoners were there, but actually that history of Long Kesh and the Royal Air Force existed and predated long before it became an issue for prisoners in terms of referring it to Long Kesh. And interestingly, a number of important visitors came to the RAF Long Kesh. President Eisenhower visited the site, Winston Churchill during the Second World War, and indeed the late Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II took her first flight and landed in RAF Long Kesh. So there's great history to Long Kesh and the Royal Air Force on this particular site, and I think that's important. I will, yes.
I thank the member for giving way, and it would be remiss of me not to mention this, seeing as we're going through the roll of honour. My granddad Tom also served at RAF Maze Long Kesh, or Long Kesh was then with 23MU, and then they moved to Aldergrove. So, you know, this did used to have a lineage and a heritage of local industry, commerce, whatever you want to call it, engineering. And yeah, I just thought it would be remiss if I didn't mention my wee granddad Tom, because obviously, you know, that was a huge thing for so many people back then who served their time. So thank the member for giving way on that.
Members, an extra minute.
Thank you. And that neatly takes me to my own family, personal connections to the site, and that's its association with the prison and HMP, the Maze. My father served in the Maze within Loyalist and Republican wings as a prison officer, served for 36 years. We lived that life, which was very much different to prisoners, but as a son of a prison officer, I remember going with Mum and picking Dad up as he walked through the steel gate and the door opened. I remember distinctly the smell of tobacco on his uniform. Dad never smoked, but that was something that I recall as a child, because obviously the environment that he was in. I also remember him coming home with snooker balls that had been thrown at him. I know from growing up he had his own personal protection weapon that he kept very close to him, checked under the vehicle. We had bulletproof windows installed in the house because his name was on a list that the Provisional IRA had. He was subject to a letter bomb that arrived within weeks of him starting in the Maze. He got a parcel bomb delivered to the house, letting him know by the prisoners, we know where you live. So, as the son of a prison officer, I know the story associated with the impact that it had. My uncle served in the Maze. The IRA put 13 bullets in his car as he drove up the motorway. He was a principal officer in the IRA wing when they broke out. They wore his uniform. He was hooded and stripped. So I come to this from a perspective of knowing what it was like to be part of that family and the trauma that prison officers went through, the pain that they endured. I also know that my dad worked with prisoners who now, as a counsellor in Lisburn, he works with at a community level, who were loyalist prisoners, and I see firsthand the contribution that they make to my community, which is improving the community. And so it's important that we look forward to the future as well as remembering what was an awful period of our time in the past. And so we need to find a way to navigate that space, and I think that we can, and we should be able to try and do that. And you do have the Balmoral show, the Ulster Aviation Society, that I remember being in Langford, and they needed to be relocated. Edwin Poots was a member of the Maze panel at the time and was able to get them into the aircraft hangars to secure its future. And obviously then you have the retained buildings. We just need to navigate that space sensibly, and we need to make sure that we can unlock the potential of the Maze site, because there is huge potential in order for it to become something of significance, not just within the Lagan Valley constituency, but indeed for Northern Ireland. And I think that will be something that we need to see progress being made in the weeks, months and years ahead. And I hope, with the executive having been restored, that we can do that in a sensible manner that unlocks the potential at the Maze Long Kesh. Thank you.
And thank you. I call Padraig Delargy.
For my good, last Ken Collier, and thank Mr. Given for his comments, because they lead me neatly into my comments. So I think we've talked about economic drivers, we've talked about the potential of this site, and I think what is imperative here is that we look at bringing trade, we look at bringing skills, jobs to this area, and unlocking the economic potential. And that is the key word in all of this, as potential. It's about opportunity, and it's around positivity and what can be done with this site. As has been mentioned by all members, I think, so far, this is about Lagan Valley, it's about Lisburn, but also it's about this entire region, and it's about the entire east coast of Ireland as well. So we've had 2 projects within my own constituency, which have been unlocked and which are continuing to be unlocked. Those are both at the Ebrington site and at the Fort George site as well. And the Ebrington site has unlocked huge potential in terms of foreign direct investment, in terms of supporting local businesses, and in terms of being an economic driver for the North West. It's transformed and expanded our city centre, and it acts as a key point in our city for culture, for arts, and for innovation. Fort George site is at a slightly different phase. It's probably more in its infancy, and it has the potential to unlock another key site within our city as well, for business and for trade. And one of the things which we've touched on today has largely been around the economy, but also around health at that site, because each of us and all of us in our own constituencies recognise the health access which all our constituents are facing at the minute, access issues with that. So it has the potential to unlock that. So I think in this conversation it's imperative that we look on the round at the economic side of things, but also the potential to unlock and to challenge the other issues which our constituents are facing. So my speech will be very short. I want to reaffirm Sinn Féin's commitment to the development of the Long Kesh site, and to commit to developing and unlocking the economic potential of this site and of other sites across the north.
Thank you. And I call Mike Nesbitt.
Thank you very much. I think I've said before that I believe, I feel the feel of this mandate is different. The mood's better, the positivity is higher, the determination is greater. So I don't want to be critical, but we have to be honest, I think, and say over the years our record on developing major infrastructure projects is not the best. Desert Crete was supposed to be a world-class facility for all our blue lights responders. Didn't happen. York Street Interchange could still be years away. And we have, of course, Mays Long Kesh. And it's nearly 20 years since the cross-party group published the master plan. It was May 2006. And what did they say? We should have a multi-sports stadium. Didn't happen. And we're living with a legacy because we've only built or redeveloped 2 of the 3 stadia. And as an aside, but I think an important one, if the 2 we'd developed had been Casement and Windsor or Casement and Ravenhill, what would the rugby union fraternity be saying about not having their development? What would the association football people be saying if it was Windsor Park, which was the odd one out of those 3? So we need to think about the consequences of not doing what we say we're going to do. And of course, the master plan included an international centre for conflict transformation. And the Strategic Investment Board were tasked with consulting on that proposal, the Peace Building and Conflict Resolution Centre, as it was called. I was one of the 4 victims commissioners at the time. We didn't have a view on whether we were supporting it or not, but I did attend what I think was the first meeting the SIB held in the Community Relations Council. And the poor official tried to focus people, and they were all representatives of victims' groups, tried to focus them on 3 questions. Number 1, should we have a centre? If so, number 2, what should be in it? And thirdly, where should it be? And everybody went straight to question 3. And everybody who represented a sort of nationalist Republican viewpoint said it has to be at the Maze. It's the only site we can have. And everybody on the unionist loyalist side said, oh no, anywhere but the Maze. And it convinced me that it was the most toxic choice of a piece of land in Northern Ireland that we could possibly have come across. So if that's still the blockage, I want to propose something that I have proposed before. Let's have a peace building and conflict resolution centre, but not at the Maze Long Kesh. Let's retake the Crumlin Road Courthouse. Now, First Minister, Deputy First Minister were there last week with Joe Kennedy looking at the fantastic work on the other side of the road. The tunnel is still there, could be reopened. That courthouse could be the Conflict Resolution Centre in North Belfast, which saw more murders per square mile than any other part of this country. and where levels of deprivation and dereliction today are very high, as members like Mr Kingston quite rightly remind us. And in terms of the prison and the remaining, the hospital wing and the rest, can we be imaginative? Think of the Constitutional Courthouse in Johannesburg. It was built on the site of an old prison, and part of the construction involved taking bricks from the awaiting trial wing of the former prison and putting them into a gable wall of this new Constitutional Court. So maybe we could be imaginative about how we link things together. And if we did do that, what a great home, permanent home, for Colin Davidson's Silent Witness collection as a start of peace building and reconciliation.
Thank you. Sinead McLaughlin.
Thank you, Speaker. We talk a lot about the difficulties of reaching political agreement in this place, about how years of stop-start government and political dysfunction have frustrated the progress of a whole range of issues. But I don't think there's any better example than Mays Long Kesh site. It is the perfect metaphor of the inability of this place, and in particular the two biggest parties, it has to be said, working together, forming consensus and reaching agreement. Members of this House will be familiar with my advocacy for the North West and the urgent need to address how starved our city has been of jobs and investment. But as economy spokesperson for the SDLP, I'm really willing to talk about our huge opportunities for investment in Northern Ireland on that eastern economic corridor, and that is exactly what the Mays Long Kesh site represents. And as Minister Given said, you know, north-south and east-west opportunities. Sitting on that Belfast-Dublin economic corridor, this site is very well placed to attract investment and drive economic development, particularly given its proximity to its nearest neighbour and the access of that dual opportunity as well. And that's the reason why people are so frustrated about the lack of progress in the Mays Long Kesh site, because the potential is clear for everyone to see. I have personally visited that site and witnessed the 347 acres of opportunity that exists. I have visited the Ulster Aviation Society, and I have visited the H Block, and I've been fascinated, to be honest with you, with both. It's an area 4 times the size of Canary Wharf and twice the size of the Titanic corridor. Logistically, it's a prime site, and everyone knows that it's a huge asset. I understand that it presents many complex challenges. Telling the story of our history is never easy. The redevelopment of the whole site may involve some hard decisions, but we are politicians. That is literally our job. The Executive Office can't keep batting this ball away because it's too hard. The Mays Long Kesh is situated in the Deputy First Minister's constituency and the Education Minister's constituency. Surely both ministers should show leadership and move this project forward. We can find a way to tell our stories with respect and with dignity. And in the meantime, we should get on with the development of the rest of the site and not allow the complex issue of legacy of the prison to hold us back any longer. What is currently taking place in the absence of that political leadership and direction is that the taxpayer is being asked to fork out an enormous amount of money with little or no return. They have chosen to throw more and more public money at the management of the site with little show for it, and they state that it is deteriorating before their very eyes. In the last 3 years, the Mays Long Kesh Development Corporation has received funding from the TO worth up to a tune of £4.8 million. In that time, the corporation has spent around £350,000 on maintenance. The appointments to that board are some of the 360 public appointments that had been made here without oversight of a Public Appointments Commissioner, including 6 appointments made in November to that board. Appointments who, based on previous experience, could be paid tens of thousands of pounds of taxpayers' money. So since 2013, the Mays Long Kesh has remained frozen from political stalemate, and this huge piece of infrastructure has been stuck in limbo. But the taxpayer hasn't been stuck in limbo. The taxpayer is keeping forking out the
time is
money
up.
to maintain that site. This must change finally and change soon. Thank you.
Thanks to the member and all members who have contributed. That concludes the list of those who had indicated a wish to speak. I now call on the First Minister to respond.
Can I thank the member firstly just for raising the debate and for all the very passionate contributions to what is, I think, the common ground that we all share, which is this is an opportunity that we must now grasp with both hands. And you know, different members, particularly those that represent the constituency, have talked about your own connection, your own family connection, your own experience, your own lived experience, and those things are all important. But equally, everybody has recognised this is much wider than the Lisburn constituency or Lagan Valley constituency. It's much wider in terms of being a site that has got enormous economic, historic also, and reconciliation opportunity. And I think these are the things that we have to look to in terms of the common ground. And I think that, to pick up on a phrase that was used, it is time to change the record. I agree. It's time to change the record. It's time to do this. It's time to actually make it happen. And it's time to make this site an enormous catalyst for investment and all that we can achieve. So let's make that our common ground and something to build on from today's debate. Everybody has referenced the amazing strategic potential that it offers, referred to the fact that 347 acres of a site, twice the size of the Titanic Quarter, around 1 million people living all within 30 minutes of the site. Again, that speaks to the potential and the opportunity that we have. And then also members have referred to the fact that it's such its location lends itself to the fact that it's so strategic in terms of a key transport corridor, access to our airports or ports. It gives the whole site a really unparalleled competitive advantage. So the catalyst that it can be for development and bringing jobs, investment, the positive impact that it can bring to local communities has to be maximised, and we're determined to make sure that that happens. I think that, and again, many members have reflected on the fact that there has been, a lot of development on the site. Obviously, much more to come. But things like the Balmoral Show, which is going to open again on the 15th of May. Again, what that brings to the site, hugely popular event. Thousands of people come from all over. Not even those from an agriculture and farming background, as someone said. It's actually quite wider than that. And actually, it's a fantastic day out for people. But that in itself, even that event, that one event, showcases all that's good about our agri-food industry, all that's good in terms of high quality food and drink offering that we have here. The Ulster Aviation Society, one of the top rated attractions that we have, the number of visitors that's now attracting, and there's been some progress made there as well in terms of the public access to the collection, to the hangars. That all has been a good development. The air ambulance operating from the site, again, such a vital emergency service and a service that we're all very, very proud of. And I think that, again, it's just boils down to the location of the site, the size of the site, and the full regeneration of the site that will be the catalyst for attracting and investing those jobs, and or attract investment and creating jobs. And that can be to the benefit of everybody in this society, everybody that we collectively serve, and that's what I want us to work on. I would assure the member that raised the debate just that work is undertaken by the new board, and they're actively looking at what now and how the site might be developed in the future. So obviously plans evolve over time, and particularly given the passage of time. And I look forward to the fact that in due course they're going to provide us, myself and Emma, the Deputy First Minister, with these plans and what they see going forward, and they're going to provide us with advice and with options as to how we will proceed. And as part of that process, the board's also going to consider the infrastructure that's needed to support those future development plans, because obviously there are a lot of issues here that we'll have to deal with, not least the connection to the primary road network, the transport infrastructure. There's, I suppose, a prime example of the things that we'll have to invest in. And also, as owners of the site, the Development Corporation have a duty to maintain the listed and retained buildings, which include the former prison complex and the World War II hangars. And a programme of maintenance is continually in place in terms of regular condition surveys and expert advice. So I would just say that, the work that's been done is very welcome work, but the potential is where we all should be focused in moving forward. I know that, as I said, the Deputy First Minister and myself, we're going to meet with the board in the very near future to take stock of that current position, to hear their thoughts on their development for the roadmap for the site itself, and that will then inform how we proceed. So what's our next step? What's the next thing we reach to? What are we going to do to tap into the potential? Because the scale of the investment that's needed in the site is quite a large investment, but the options for how that will be funded based on the plans that are put on the table will be and will inform the conversation for moving forward. So I would just leave with this thought that we have such a great opportunity for this site. We're determined to take that opportunity for this site. We're determined to maximise the opportunity for the benefit of all. That's our collective objective, and we look forward to working with all the members who are interested in it, but also with the Corporation Board itself to make sure that we make this all come about and make this happen. Thank you.
Thank the First Minister for that response. Members, the Assembly is adjourned.
Assembly Chamber. Sound. Assembly Chamber. Sound. Assembly Chamber. Sound.